Hello, and welcome to Life Force Radio. I'm Tessa Fromer, and I'm so happy you're here. In every episode, I'm going to bring you more insights on how to live a life that's meaningful, rich, joyful, in a way that allows you to be steady, present, and mindful throughout it all. Together, we'll tune into many systems of self-discovery, have conversations with people that have really gone the distance, both inside and outside. And I know their stories will inspire you to stay on your path and be connected to your own life force. When I tell you how highly requested this specific podcast episode is, I cannot understate it enough. You guys have been wanting to know all about the superpowers and triggers of the 7 emotional authorities in human design. And every single time I mention it, people just want more. And I get it. I am you. When I first understood that statistically, over 60% of the population has emotional authority, I realized that just about every single person that I'm interacting with is either feeling my emotional authority or I'm feeling someone else's. And that is impacting our awareness, our emotional relatability, our conflict resolution, how we make decisions, the result of our decisions, and so on. Authority in human design is a key tenet because it is all about our internal compass, the voice that we need to listen to. There are 6 total authorities in human design, and I'm going to list them in order from most common to least common. The most common, like I said, is emotional authority, all right? The second is sacral authority. The third is splenic authority. The fourth is self-projected authority. That stems from the G center. And then we have environmental or mental authority, and then we have lunar authority. This episode is dedicated to all 7 emotional waves, and I'm going to take you through them one by one. I'm going to tell you how I look at them, their superpowers, how they function, their triggers, and what to look out for. I'm also going to give you real life examples of how this shows up, because in the last several years that I've been doing human design readings, I have become an expert at helping people understand that the way they function internally is okay, and that there's nothing that they need to change, but in fact, the very channel that you have defined can impact your entire outlook on life, every single way that you interact with other people, and how you make decisions. So this is no small feat. Emotional authority is major. Now, everybody else on the planet who doesn't have emotional authority, newsflash, that means that you have an undefined solar plexus center. And that center, when it's undefined, means that you take on and amplify the emotions of the people around you. So if you are listening to this episode and you do not have emotional authority, this is going to be such a big education for you and allow you to more clearly understand the people around you. Anytime you listen to one of my episodes that's focused on human design, I highly recommend that you get the human design body graphs of the people who are on the top shelf of your heart, your tribe, your loved ones, your ride or dies. And that you have all of these charts up either on an app or you've screenshotted them and you take a look at their authority. And if they have emotional authority, you find the channel that's defined there, what's coming out of that little solar plexus center. And this will make sense as I go through it, but you'll begin to see, oh yeah, that's why Jessica is the way that she is. And oh my God, that's why my mom cares so much about fill in the blank. Or this is why I feel crazy sometimes or struggle with this thing. So there's so much truth that's going to be illuminated through this. And whenever there's truth that's illuminated in ourselves and how we relate to other people, that is social alchemy, people. That is what social alchemy is all about. It's using information that you learn about yourself to better understand and relate to those around you in order to have better relationships, more fun, more connection, and able to process conflict better when it happens, because it's inevitable that in any relationship or any friendship or any work situation that you are going to have conflict. And social alchemy helps you move through that faster with more self-integrity and more compassion for the people around you. If I could just tell you how much emotional authority means to me, it would be in a story, which is that I have the 30-41 emotional wave, and I have just always been such a dreamer. I have a big imagination. I had imaginary friends my entire childhood, and I am always dreaming of new places to go and travel. And I'm just constantly just in my head, just imagining what it's going to be like to be with all of these people and wearing these certain things. And if I'm not careful, prior to not knowing about my emotional wave, I would sometimes get let down by how much I would hype up an adventure or a travel or a coffee with a friend, or like a job. I would just get so wrapped up in the mechanics and the excitement of the whole thing that sometimes I would be let down. And when I learned that that's the function of my channel, that I learned that I need to be more calm, cool, and collected when it comes to making my decisions and where I'm going to travel, and not get so like ramped up in energy around it. And this is called riding the emotional wave. And regardless of the channel that you have, everybody here who's listening needs to understand that people with emotional authority need to, quote unquote, ride the wave. Ride the wave is, I swear on my life, the thing that's repeated most frequently in my house and in my relationship. My husband and I are always saying, oh, let me ride the wave on that. Riding the wave is quite simply getting presented with a choice, an option, a decision, and saying, let me ride the wave, aka let me take a beat, let me pause, let me think on this, let me see how that feels. If people with emotional authority do not ride the wave, they will be either so excited by that initial choice or decision or opportunity that they will be like, yes, absolutely, I will totally be there next Thursday. And then Thursday comes around and they are utterly exhausted, don't even like these people that they agreed to hang out with, have no idea why they said yes. And they now are struggling to reach out to that person they made the plans with and undo that plan, which can lead to flakiness or conflict, etc. Now, if you're also on a point on your emotional wave where you're feeling a bit low, then you might respond to that by saying, no, I couldn't possibly handle that thing next Thursday, which might make you feel like, why can't I ever just do things and make plans in the future? Why can't I just be like everybody else? So the truth is, there's no truth in the now. That is a quote from Ra Uru Hu, the creator of human design. So when you're feeling too high about a decision or too low, it's a sign that you need to ride the wave. And you're always going to ride the wave and take your time making a decision until you reach a point of clarity. And baby, clarity always comes. Clarity always comes. That's the mantra. Ride the wave. There's no truth in the now, and clarity always comes. Those are the 3 key phrases that I have learned in my lived experience embodying my human design. And I just want to impart those onto all of you and start using them day in and day out. And they will change your life. Now, I'm going to share at the end of this a practice that will help you to master your emotional authority. And the reason why I say that you need to master it is because having emotional authority is rooted in a lifelong journey of maturation, maturing. And it's all about becoming more in charge of your emotions and less at the whim of them. And we do that by riding the emotional wave. We do that by saying yes to things when there's clarity or saying no to things when there isn't. And the greatest gift that you can give yourself and all of the people around you is to act from a place of more clarity. It will change your life. Without further ado, I'm going to get into the 7 emotional waves. And I want you to know I'm going to put a free offer down below in the description notes of this podcast episode. And it's going to have a link to a written format of everything that I'm going to be walking you through so that you can keep it, reference it, screenshot it, study it yourself. This is my gift to you because I know that not everybody learns the same way. And so as you're listening to this, you might be like, God, what did she say about the community channel? Like, what was that again? I think somebody I know has that. So just no worries while you're listening to this. You don't need to take notes, but just click that link below and reference that doc. And if you are at all interested in learning more about your human design or deepening your understanding of the system or applying it to your life, I do a human design reading that's 90 minutes long. It's $150, but I put in so much value. It's a full slideshow all about the foundations of your human design, including your incarnation cross, which is the thing that everybody is most obsessed about. It's your 4 greatest gifts and how to use them. And I just love doing human design readings. It's the most accessible way to work with me. And if you ever wanted to go deeper with that after that point, you can enroll in the System Blender. And the System Blender is my favorite program that I offer right now because we deepen into human design with 2 more sessions beyond the initial one. And then we go into gene keys, astrology, astrocartography, the genius report, And we just see what continuously repeats about your gifts and your genius throughout all of these systems of self-discovery. And whenever we do that, you'll see that there are golden threads that repeat over and over and over again that you realize you can't ignore. And the benefit of that is that you stop dimming your light. You stop thinking that your gifts aren't enough because, hello, we are only human. I get it. I've been on this, like in this exact place wherein I was freakishly aware of everyone else's gifts, beauty, genius, ability to communicate, lead, etc. But I was always looking at their gifts and comparing myself to them and seeing where I wasn't. And that was the energy of lack. And when I kept looking at everyone around me who I really respected from that place of lack, I wasn't able to see or really hear my own gifts as people saw them in me. And once I started really studying all of these systems and getting certified in them, was I really able to see that, wow, every single person on this planet has their own gifts and their own genius and their own way of being in the world. And if every single person knew them, we would be in such a healthier culture. Women would feel so comfortable in their bodies. Men would feel so empowered in their uniqueness. And we wouldn't be so insecure and self-conscious. And I really believe that being self-conscious is the enemy of authenticity. And all authenticity is its inner alignment expressed outwardly. And the System Blender is a journey that will connect you so deeply to your authenticity, to your inner alignment, and then you can move from there. And every single client I've taken through the System Blender has come out of that with a project and a passion that they are so lit up about, and they use their gifts in the world and they're able to do what they love with what comes most naturally to them. And that is what it's all about. Okay, so enough about that. That's the human design. That's the System Blender. You can find more information about that below if you want it. And no worries if you don't. Just find that link in the description that's going to tell you all about the emotional waves. It's my Emotional Wave 101 free guide. And I just hope that it helps you out, and I hope it helps your relationships. And if it does, please give me a follow at Social Alchemy Institute on Instagram. Send me a message with how this podcast worked for you in your life. I love to hear your real life examples. And honestly, I am here for you guys. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't so passionate about it and wanting to see it live in the world and make waves. So without further ado, let's start with one of my favorite and honestly the most common emotional wave that I see in my practice. It is the 3740, and it's the community emotional wave. This is one of the tribal emotional waves in human design, and it makes the person who has its energy all about agreements. These people are consciously and unconsciously constantly making agreements. They are uniquely attuned to emotional security and to balance or imbalance of giving and receiving in relationships. Their relationships may feel subtly contract-based, meaning their emotional state is deeply tied to whether or not those agreements, relationships, or community bonds are feeling currently fair and reciprocated. But on the other side, the superpower that they bring is that they are gifted with the ability of bringing people together. People with the 3740 are community powerhouses. They are the centripetal forces in every room, in every family, in every friend group, because they say, come here, gather around me. Everyone is safe here and everyone is home here. And what a powerful friend or person to have in your corner than somebody with the 3740. This is a channel that goes from the solar plexus to the heart center or the ego center, the will, the drive. So it's the only channel that goes from the solar plexus to the heart. So it's really unique. And it's a motor function. So it says like, I will go above and beyond for my people. Can you just like celebrate this person for a second? This person in your life who goes above and beyond, and maybe it might feel like it's too much for you, or they're just so good at that, bringing people together that you don't have to worry about them, but you really need to continuously exalt and celebrate your community emotional wave people because they work so hard for their friends. And their purpose is really not to just show up for everyone all the time, but to really figure out where in society and where in their life are they most lit up and supported. Where is their reciprocity? Where is their mutual understanding? Because while they love to bring people together, they will start to notice, oh my God, I keep bringing people together, but I'm not feeling seen. I'm not feeling met. And therefore that can impact their ability to deeply trust others and actually rely on them. And every single person on this planet needs to be able to rely on other people. So there needs to be some kind of energetic exchange with your community emotional wave friends or coworkers or peers. And that doesn't always have to look like money, like where they're paid for their work or there's a ticket to their event. But it can really just mean the world to them to get recognition and affirmation from you. Those two things are their love languages. Recognition and affirmation. So thank you so much for putting this together. I can't believe how above and beyond you went for me or for this experience or for this project. The more you give that to them, that's the energetic exchange that will keep them and just open the door for them to bring up if at any point in time that there is an imbalance in the relationship or the contract. Because sometimes, because this channel doesn't have a connection to the throat, they can struggle to articulate that. It can feel very vulnerable for them. So that is my number one advice for people who have the community emotional wave or people who love those with it, is to check in on them, give them that recognition, that affirmation, make sure that they're feeling supported in all the things that they do, and do the right thing, which is quite simply improve the exchange, improve the agreement, and support it so that it's really healthy for them, because these people will go above and beyond. What's really unique is that if you have this, your awareness, your emotional awareness is subtly and sometimes chronically aware of every imbalance in a relationship. So you can think of somebody with this as someone who says, okay, it's been 5 days in a row that I have been the one to empty the dishwasher. And it has been 5 days in a row that no one has thanked me. And so all of a sudden, there is this awareness of an imbalance growing and this lack of communication to the other person. So it's really important that when that tension starts to build in you, community wave person, that you communicate that to the people that you're starting to sour around. And you say, hey, I'm noticing that I have a story around our agreement and I'm starting to pick up the dishwasher task, which really might be no big deal. But for me, it's starting to kind of weigh on me. So I just wanted to check in and see if you want me to continue doing it, or if you're just so busy at work that you can't right now. But if you were to notice that it was getting emptied or filled up every day, if you would just say thank you and recognize me, that would mean the world to me. Okay, so that's just a simple example on a small level of how this emotional wave shows up specifically for those with it, okay? Okay, I just went so hard on that 3740 emotional wave, and that's because I know it deeply. Like I said, I see it the most in my practice. I see it the most in my friends and family, and I know it so well as a human who operates around it. So I had a lot to say. The second one we're going to explore is the 4919 synthesis emotional wave. This one is often called the tribal need wave. Okay, so whereas the first one, the 3740, was also very tribal relational, the synthesis is as well, but it's a little bit different because it builds pressure internally within relationships and community, especially regarding resources, security, and emotional support. Their superpower is self-awareness. People with the synthesis 4919 wave are so self-aware, it's crazy. They are so hyper aware of everything that they're thinking and saying and feeling. They are very somatically embodied people. And therefore, they also are really attuned to others. They are sensitive to others. They can feel when something is off in a room. However, the 4919 is comprised of two different gates, which are all about values and unmet needs and lack of resources or stability in their environment. So when they start to feel unmet physically, emotionally, spiritually, they might start to withdraw. And that might look like subtly. And what that looks like is they start to recognize that their needs aren't being met, or they're feeling unsupported, unseen, or unvalued in their close relationships. And as this begins to build, they may not communicate that right away. They may just hope for the best, hope that it goes away. But meanwhile, this pressure, this tension is building inside of them, and this awareness, this self-awareness and sensitivity is building as well. And then there comes a point where they just need to flip a switch and they withdraw. And that's when their energy and their emotions jump from, okay, I'm calm, everything's great, it's all fine, to I am frustrated, I feel rejected, and I am like emotionally unavailable to you. If that person doesn't then communicate that there's been A, B, C, D, E, F, G opportunity and moments where something could have been done differently, then that energy can actually look really abrupt to others. But it's really, in truth, you pulling away or you withdrawing or a friend with this channel withdrawing is often the result of a long, long and silent buildup. And trust, they will have a list of those moments and experiences that made them feel unsupported, unseen, or unmet. And so the maturation process of somebody with this wave is that it begins to get really important for you to recognize that you are not a filing cabinet. You don't need to store all of these stories and experiences and wait until you are at the tipping point where you're like a overdone steak and you just are done. You can communicate sooner. Now, we have to give compassion to our 4919 emotional authority beings because the 4919 is going from the root center to the solar plexus. So it doesn't arch up to the throat center. Depending on the person's chart, they may have a defined throat or there may be a connection all the way up there. But if there isn't, it can be really difficult to express emotions. It can be really difficult to say, I have unmet needs. I'm feeling unsupported and unseen and unvalued by you. This is really vulnerable. And because these are tribally oriented people and they have strong needs, big capacities, and big desires, this can be very vulnerable for them. And because of that, it's really important that they know who's in their tribe, who is in their circle or their orbit of influence, who really impacts them. And so I recommend that if you have this emotional wave, that you keep a running list, top of mind, of those people who are written on your heart, the very tippy top shelf, like your ride or dies, your people that you want to go to the grave with, and the people who you are also really sensitive to. So maybe you're not best friends with your mom, but if something is off with her, you are really impacted by it and you would go to great lengths to make sure that she feels better. So the key thing with this emotional wave is that you cannot wait until the breaking point of your needs and values to honor them. You simply can't. You can't wait. It's inappropriate. It's immature for you to wait that long. And remember, statistically, it is unlikely that the other people around you have this same superpower of attunement to needs and values. So you have to say, it's my responsibility to recognize my needs and values, and it's my responsibility to communicate it so that I don't have to snap like a rubber band. The earlier you speak and set your boundaries, the less extreme the wave needs to become. The less low the lows are and less high the highs are, the sooner you will get to clarity. The third emotional wave that I want to talk about is another one that I know very, very well, very intimately. It's the 35-36 transitory emotional wave. This is a channel that goes from the solar plexus up to the throat. So welcome to the first emotional wave that connects to the throat. This is such a unique emotional wave because it has a function and makes a person who has it very experience driven and adventure seeking. So people who have this thrive on change, growth, and they constantly have this kind of alert, bouncy, magnetic, what's next energy. Their soul has chosen an adventurous path where they are constantly seeking new experiences and feelings in life because they have hunger for change. These are hungry people. They have so many exciting experiences and stories to tell others that they quite literally inspire other people and draw them in. This is your random fucking friend who you're like, I'm sorry, you were doing what in a hot air balloon on Tuesday morning and then Wednesday night you were in Barcelona? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is your life? And you're meeting these people and you were behind the bar and wow, like they are those kinds of people that you can barely keep up with because life is so transitory for them. And that is what makes them so magnetic. Now, the other thing that's really special about our transitory emotional wave friends, loved ones, homies, and peers is that because they've experienced so much and they might experience a disproportional amount of things than everybody else, aka at like a faster rate, is that they have a natural wisdom and depth that may not be visible on the surface. Like you may think that they are rather not that deep or that they are not aware of what's going on in everybody else, but actually because of everything they've experienced, they are experienced and they are resilient and very alive. They are very present people and they have this very open aura. So their superpower in summary is living the most wildly varied and experiential life ever. Like, wow, they are so inspiring to us about what's possible in any given 24 hours. However, their challenge or what makes them feel emotionally low or not themselves is when they get kind of stuck or stagnant. Those are their number one enemies. So if you ever know anybody who has this and you notice that they are starting to get more withdrawn or they don't feel like that motivated to be out and about in the world, or they're acting restless or frustrated, those are your signs to be like, encourage them. Like, hey, go do something crazy tonight. Go get out of the house. Go try a new restaurant. Like, call up that random person that you've been wanting to connect with because you are feeling stuck. And when you're stuck, that's when you're low, and then it can bring on these emotional waves. The other thing that's kind of hard for them is when there are sudden endings or transitions, those can bring on really low lows, especially if there's no sense of completion. I've noticed in my clients that have the transitory wave is that they really leave a lot of doors open, and that's in their heart, and that's in their experience, that's in their connections. And so when a door is shut on them, it's like, hey, did you need to shut that door? Did you need to slam it in my face, or could you have just walked out it and said, see you later? Because they are so transitory, that's how they operate. There's this fluidity in them. And the medicine for them, really, the experience that we want them to have is we want them to bring us their depth and their wisdom. And what you can do is you can ask them, like, what are you learning lately? Like, what are you learning about people, their culture? And what is one of your favorite days in your life in the last 6 months? Or what are you most looking forward to in the future? And how can we bring stability to your resilient energy, but also in a way that keeps you away from stuck and stagnant energy? But the key message for these people is that they are not here to chase the high. Rather, they are here to live the full spectrum of the human experience. Ooh, what powerful, incredible, magnetic people. The 59-6 mating emotional wave is a one of one in the chart, another one of one. The 59-6 mating emotional wave is, in my opinion, one of the most unique of the emotional waves. There are 7 total, but this one just has such a different energy and essence than any of the others we're going to be talking about today. So this wave is uniquely relationship focused. So how they process emotions and waves often shows up through dynamics with their partners, family, or close friends. They are also very tribally oriented people. They are driven for intimacy and they are driven to create. They are extremely creative beings, and all that they want to do, if you were to let them alone, would be to be creative. Like, number one dharma purpose on this planet for someone with the 59-6 is like, leave me alone and let me be creative. Now, that also translates to reproduction, right? Reproduction is often seen for people with the 59-6 as the ultimate creative expression. So I jokingly always tell the 59-6 people that you're likely very fertile. So keep your eye on that. And you like intimacy and depth and passion, and you want to go into the throes with any person that you're connecting with. And that is your gift to the people that you are intimate with, especially when you're in close friendship or close relationship. So here's what happens when they get triggered or when they start to notice that something is off. They have this unique ability to recognize intuitively that something is shifting in another person. They want to pick up on any tension or something being off in the dynamic. They constantly want to make sure that that intimacy is deepening, and that if something was done or happened that's wrong, that they can close that gap and get back to that intimacy as quickly as possible. And that's because they feel most high on their emotional wave, most alive when intimacy is off the charts. When you're like one and the same person, when you're like so sync step. But that's not often really sustainable, right? Remember, statistically, not everybody has this emotional wave. So people need more time and more space to process, which is really hard sometimes for the intimacy emotional wave people. So if you have this wave, you might feel like you need to have a confrontation or a conversation in order to check in or release that pressure that you feel. This could be a heated discussion. It could be an emotional check-in, or it could happen very casually and very quickly, the more comfortable you become with your process and the person you need to speak to. So once a lover or a friend understands that you just kind of like a lot of checkpoints and check-ins, the more comfortable and safe the relationship will feel for you, and the even deeper levels of intimacy you'll get to experience. Now, when it comes to creativity, there is nothing that is more fulfilling to the 59-6 than that. That's their superpower. They are probably the most uniquely creative person on the planet, or the most creative person that you know. And creating is their second nature. So we want to encourage them to create, to be inspired, to share their messages with the world. This channel is the only channel that goes from the sacral center to the solar plexus. The sacral has these impulses. It's the home of life force, of vitality, and of reproduction. So that's why there's this reproduction energy here. Now, the sacral center is home to the manifesting generators and the generators. So anybody who has the 59-6 is automatically going to be a generator or a mani-gen, which means that they get their life force from sharing their gifts and genius in the world, from creating. So the best thing that you can do as someone who loves someone or is around someone with this channel is support their creativity, let them follow their impulses, and allow them to check in with you as much as they need to make sure that that connection and intimacy is still there. And if they want to bring something up, just don't assume that it's going to be a confrontation or that there's something you did wrong. It's just they are uniquely attuned to intimacy, trust, and emotional connection. They always want to know if they are close or becoming closer, or if they are becoming less close and more distant. Okay, so now you can understand a little bit more about people with the 59-6. I will say, I think they're pretty rare. I don't see a lot of 59-6s within my practice. So if you know one or you love one, you are so lucky. You are so taken care of by them. We have the 39-55 to cover, the 22-12, and the 30-41. I'm going to start with the 39-55 and the 22-12. These are kind of like cousins in emotional waves in my interpretation. And I think that these two emotional waves were a lot more common in older generations, but I don't see them that much in our Gen Z and our millennial peers at this time. Let's start with a 39-55. It's called the emoting wave, and these people who have this are truly some of the most creative artists on the planet. They have such a strong inner muse. That is their superpower. Quite literally, they are the kinds of people who can go into the depths of their being, feel the lows, feel life, feel it moving through them. And I mean the whole spectrum of it, not just the rainbows and butterflies, but really the deep melancholy, the uncertainty, the sadness. And it's really important that we encourage and liberate our 39-55 friends to live authentically and to fully embrace their emotional wave. They can plumb the depths of their own spirit and truth. And I love that word plumb. I mean like PLUMB, like go straight down into the marrow of spirit and the depths and death and life. Now, they're also very pleasure-seeking people. They really like to feel good. This is an individual emotional wave versus tribal or collective. And they're said to have the most moody, or they're said to be the most moody of the emotional waves. And so if they are not in the mood for something, or if they don't sense that they are craving, needing, desiring something, it's really important that they skip it. That's a huge part of their decision-making process, is like, what am I in the mood for? And they're always going to be prompted with lots of things that they could do or could want to do. But it's kind of like, let them check themselves and be like, am I in the mood for this? I don't think so. And that's fine. They should only do things that they're in the mood for. And that means making love, eating, working, playing, only if they are in the mood. When they are in the mood for those kinds of things, they impact others tremendously. They share their spirited passion for life and music and art and creativity. And when they're not, they're probably having a pretty inward experience wherein they are investigating things, reading, writing, crying, feeling. And that's what allows them to connect deeply to the world around them. The 3955 are also deeply attuned to others, and they are frequently looking to connect with people in the world who match their level of spirit, their resonance, and they're driven to find that kind of community, that kind of connection. And when they bond with people, they bond very deeply because they have this spiritual match with people. So these are often like your twin flames, your karmic lovers. And when you are often in a karmic relationship or in a soul tie with somebody, you might feel like there's this unpredictable nature to that relationship. And the sooner that the 3955 individual understands their moodiness, their unpredictable swings, the more they are able to gracefully move through those swings. Their melancholy is a natural part of their process. It's not something they need to fix. It often precedes creative breakthroughs or emotional clarity. And when their moments of emotional inspiration and joy emerge, which would be the high on their emotional wave, which can sometimes happen suddenly, it's more of a spike wave. It can happen through creativity, music, art, or meaningful connection. But this emotional wave and these people are specifically tied to spirit, to their environment, and to their inner creative and their inner muse. They are really, really, really beautifully rich humans who understand everything and can relate to anybody. This specific channel connects from the root to the solar plexus, so they are driven to find spirit. That's that 55 root gate. Driven to feel it all, driven to find ecstasy, driven to understand and to know beyond all doubt. Next up, we have the 2212 emotional wave. Like I said, this is kind of like the sister cousin of the 3955. It is also an individual emotional wave, and its superpower is having the most unbelievable natural magnetism and social charm. Now, it's called the openness emotional wave because it gives the person who has it this really open aura, this really magnetic curiosity, wherein people just like to observe them. This emotional wave goes from the solar plexus up to the throat. So the other emotional wave that went from the solar plexus to the throat was the 3536 transitoriness, which is a super magnetic, social, experiential emotional wave. And the 2212 has that same kind of energy, but with a little bit more moodiness and melancholy of the 3955, the one we just talked about. So people who have this emotional wave may feel like they are transparent, like that everybody knows how they're feeling because their auric field is so open, but they also have this incredible ability to communicate how they're feeling emotionally because this connects to their throat center. This is such a quintessential manifesting generator or manifestor channel. So they might feel like their moods are all over the place, but really that's just the nature of this particular wave. The buildup of their emotions or their triggers are feeling shut down, experiencing emotional rejection or being dismissed and feeling like other people don't understand your depth, as well as when their creativity is stifled. That will create kind of like a chronic tension that builds up until it needs to be expressed, sometimes dramatically. This can look like quitting a job out of nowhere, but really it's been building up in you for a long time, where you're like a creative director or in charge of a big team or a big vision and no one is quite understanding you. However, once people who have the 2212 start to understand that that creative block or that rejection or shutdown energy is building up inside of them, they then begin to build a level of mastery that creates space for release, really clear communication, unbelievable new levels of creativity. And all of this is really boosted by movement or intentional time alone. And those really help support the 2212 before those emotions boil over and affect other people. So remember that if you have this emotional wave, your best practices for being the most creative, naturally magnetic, and socially charming person is to honor your unique rhythm. So gate 12 gives you a special sense of the right timing to execute on things, or how to communicate it, or exactly what to say. And if you shut that down or you suppress it, you're going to get so blocked up, and we're not going to benefit from your unbelievable creativity and charm. So we really want you to embrace your defined throat center, embrace your ability to communicate and recognize, and create that space for that communicative release. When you do that, we all learn so much from you, and our projects go smoother and faster. So we really love our 2212 people. And while I don't know a whole lot of them in my life, I feel like I've worked with a lot of them in previous careers, just visionary individuals who put off this energy like, oh, man, you feel like you know them, but really you can also get a sense that they have a deep inner world that you may not ever know anything about unless you're married to them or a family member of theirs. But it's just, they're such a treat to be around. Now, lastly, we have the 3041. This is the recognition emotional wave. This is the one that I was telling you guys about at the top of the episode. And this one has the superpower of big imagination, an unbelievable dreamer. And this person is somebody who can not only has an idea of their dream life, but also has the ability to make that dream life happen. Now, what's really unique about this emotional wave is that it's really imagination, expectation, and experience driven. And it goes from the root center to the solar plexus. And it's driven to have experiences. It's driven for fantasy and imagination. And so what this emotional wave looks like in the person who has it is they're kind of a daydreamer. They're always longing for that next thing, that beautiful experience, that wonderful trip, that retreat. And so when they are dreaming about those experiences, they often start to build up a lot of pressure or expectation of how that experience is going to be. And this can keep them really stuck in the future. And when that experience actually comes to play into the present moment, if it doesn't live up to the visualization or the idea that the 3041 had in their mind, they can be really disappointed and can express a really frustrated energy that almost feels like they were let down and disappointed. And then that whole present experience can end up being like, this isn't what I wanted, this isn't what I wanted, this isn't what I wanted. I was hoping it would be more like this or like this or like this, which means they're not even present in the experience because they had already lived it over so many times prior, and it's nothing like that. The maturation of this emotional wave is really for people to start to understand that process isn't healthy for them. The building up of an experience so much in their heads until they are disappointed by reality is just a really unhealthy process. And it's important for them to really align themselves with their ideal trip and their ideal expectations, but also not stress too much about the little things and how it's all going to feel and work out. Otherwise, they can get a little emotionally anxious or restless and not really let life unfold the way that it wants to. And this can kind of feel like a bottleneck energy with the universe. So the biggest message for anybody with the 3041 is to just let life unfold the way that it's meant to unfold and really be in the present moment instead of being upset that the present moment isn't what you wanted it to be. This emotional wave is really deeply connected to desire, the desire to experience something, to feel new or feel different. And so this is a very spiritual experience for people who have this, where they're always wanting to reach a new high or move through the lowest low and come out with wisdom and perspective. And that's what's always happening for them. They're always understanding things later, not because, clarity always comes, but often it takes them out of the present moment. And so the biggest thing for the 3041 is to use your big imagination to create your dream life, but to always remember that your dream life is already happening now. You're living it here. It's already unfolding. And the biggest medicine is for you to be present enough to notice all of that. So, like I told you guys at the top of the hour, I wanted to give you a daily practice, and that this daily practice will help you to chart where you're at on your emotional wave. So, the other thing I want to remind you of is that your emotional wave, where you're at, high, low, or neutral, has nothing to do with how good or bad you were recently. In fact, it's almost kind of like the radio station that's on in the back of your head. You can change the radio station, but you might just wake up with a certain level on. Here's the practice. What you want to do every single morning is to just wake up, open your eyes, and just notice how you feel. And use the soft label of low, neutral, or high. And around those words, low, neutral, and high, I want you to begin to build a little Rolodex of words that also go with your low, neutral, and high feelings. So, for example, your low might come with stuck, stagnant, restless, anxious. Your neutral might come with peaceful, casual, effortless, easy, knowing, sensible, strong. Your high might come with words like ecstatic, life force out the wazoo, magnetic, super creative, joyful, passionate, etc. Those are just some examples of words that you might resonate with. But what's going to be most important in this daily practice is that you start to notice the energies associated with being low, neutral, and high. And when you just label it, just without attachment, without needing to fix it, without needing to do anything about that particular emotional state, you can then share it with the people around you, your partner, your roommates, your managers, your team, etc. And so when it comes to making joint decisions or making plans that day, you can recognize that the energy that you're bringing to those plans or those meetings is going to be either low, neutral, or high. And that energy impacts the future you who is then living in those plans or in those action items or in those meetings, so to speak. So how I do this in my relationship is I wake up every day, and if I notice that I'm low, especially, I will tell that to my husband as soon as we connect that day, like, hey, I'm feeling a little low today. So when it comes to planning out our trip this summer, that might be the energy that I'm bringing, but please don't take it personally. I'm super excited for this trip. I'm just kind of having an inward day, and vice versa. This saves us both a lot of time and hassle, and it allows us to just feel more deeply connected to each other without having to fix or feel responsible for one another's emotional states. The most mature and empowering thing you can do, since you've learned all about all the emotional waves now, is to simply not make decisions with other people when they're feeling any kind of low. Instead, just create a lot of space for communication and connection and individual exploration. All right, guys, I hope that this episode was super helpful for you in understanding all 7 of the emotional waves. And don't forget to check out the Notion template down below, which is going to have a ton of information. Everything that I've talked about in here is referenced in that guide. And I hope you're having this super rad day. Much love.